Hello everyone and welcome to my Suburban Oasis. It's a cloudy and rainy day today. We got about a high of 49 today, and then on Friday we are going to hit 87. So thus is the life of a Michigander. My name's Soleil and I garden in a zone 5B here in mid-Michigan. And what you're seeing right now is just one of the tables on my deck where I am keeping some of my seedlings along with some annuals that I got that I'm planning to plant out later. So this is kind of a resting spot for them while they wait to go in the garden. All right, let's come over here, and I've also got some new boards going on the deck my husband's putting in because some of them were getting a little rotten. We've got some dahlias over here, and I just started to plant some other ones out just before it began to get cold again today. I don't know why all of a sudden it did that, but look. This is so exciting. I love to see this. When this comes out, it just is so entrancing. Look at the beautiful blue purple on this ajuga. This is the chocolate chip ajuga. And I just think it looks so glorious this time of year. In this bed we also have some salvia, and we have some really nice incredible hydrangeas, and another hydrangea along with that arborvitae that has been trained into a topiary. It's just gorgeous. And I finally got this bed mulched, so I'm really happy about that. Isn't that beautiful? I love that color. And you can see in the background our pool is open now, and we're just starting to get the chemicals in, so it's gonna look a lot better soon as we get some of those algae out from the winter. Got a couple of planters right here, a couple concrete planters that I have planted some verbena in for now. But let's just spin here and look at the fountain. This fountain garden is really gorgeous. I adore this fountain. I got it a couple of years ago, and I really enjoy having that sound in the garden. And the azalea is just blooming amazingly. I have a mugo pine in here, and every year I get some, I think they're called European sawflies in there, and this year I caught them really early and treated them with some neem oil, just a real quick spray, and they were gone. So no worries with that. It has some amazingly large candles on it right now, so I will have to come through and kind of decide how I want that to be pruned. But my goal is to keep it just under the bottom edge of the fountain as it grows up. And back behind that we have a weigela and a vanilla strawberry hydrangea. And that maple tree has just leafed out so beautifully. Love that Japanese maple color. I have two superstar spireas on either side of this pathway opening here, and they look absolutely gorgeous with some raindrops on them, and the beautiful color of that deep maroon on the new growth getting ready to bud out. And some roses and foxglove. It's going to be so beautiful. And these chocolate chip ajugas over here are blooming now. And I think this is the first year I'm actually going to get blooms on this mock orange. And this mock orange has been here for 3 years, and every year they seem to get frozen off, or something happens where I don't get to see it bloom and smell it. So I'm really excited about that. My Rainbow Sensation weigela in the back there has some buds on it, as do these little Miss Kim lilacs. And you can see the liriope in front here, the variegated liriope is starting to come up as well. Okay, here we are in the front yard. We are greeted by the panels on the gorilla cart that my husband bought or put onto it, and we have A beautiful hydrangea over here. This is the strawberry Sunday kind with a couple of hostas underneath of it. So we have a bit of part shade in this area, but that hydrangea still seems to do really well. And you can see my burning bush here. This has been a bit of a problematic area for me because it is shade, but it's also very dry. So I planted some hostas last year and they seem to be doing really well. There's that burning bush. And I'm just going to keep the top trimmed, so I'll be doing that really soon as well, just kind of keeping it a little bit more sculpted. And I had a couple of azaleas in this bed that there's one over here you can barely see, and then one right here where almost all the leaves are completely gone because the rabbits just took them right down, the rabbits and maybe the deer as well. But they're still alive, so that's the good news. Both of them have some blooms on them. Very bright color blooms. And this eastern snowball bush right here has one bloom right in the way back here. But that's okay, that's a good sign. That means it's doing really well. And I'm probably going to trim this one up. I want to kind of have that one be somewhat a growth habit of what we have the burning bush looking like there as well. So keep it under the height of the roof, but also kind of trim it up so that I can continue to plant underneath of it. And then here we have some amazing ferns. These are the royal fern. The nice thing about these is that they don't spread like the Dickens, but they're absolutely gorgeous as they open up. And here's those rhubarbs that I put in this planter. And those are beginning to leaf out and look good. And the PG hydrangea standard. And you can see all of the liatris starting to come up by the boxwood path here, which makes a really nice kind of outer corner to it. And this long bed along the side of the driveway is really looking good. This tree has bloomed and has since stopped blooming just a couple days ago. The majority of the petals fell. But what we'll see throughout the garden now is a lot of chives that are starting to put on buds. And what I do is I just make sure that after they bloom, I come through and make sure to cut them all the way back to their base so they can flush out again and give us another set of flowers. And the nice thing about that is I usually get 2, maybe 3 blooms out of them each year. Now this bed is looking fairly green right now. But as you can see on these salvia, we have lots of buds. We have a couple different kinds of salvia in here, including the May night salvia, so I do expect them to bloom soon. The 2 pines that I bought this winter that I put in these pots are not looking great. I think they got a little too much winter damage and got maybe too dry over the winter. The sand cherry though, this color, I like how it brings some color into this bed because between that and the new growth on the roses, which is a bit red, and then the tiny wine 9 barks here, those are the only things in this bed that do not have green foliage. I love green foliage. I find it very peaceful, but I think it's also really nice to have some other colors of foliage because they last much longer than flowers do. And I'm starting to see some small bits of color on the dianthus. So that's starting to happen. And then this small circle of stones is now getting taken over by the peonies. We had some really glorious blooms on the weeping crabapple here. And now we're getting set to see some of the glorious blooms of the peony. So that will be fun. And then in this bed, look at that beautiful deep purple on the black scallop ajuga lining the front edge of this bed. And I can't wait to spread that around a little bit more this year. There will definitely be some dividing of that going on. I did divide and add these two on the end this last fall, but there will definitely be more coming. And this bed also has some salvia in it that is budded up and will be coming out very soon. And the two viburnums that are in here, these are blue muffin viburnums, and they also are just smothered in buds. Look at that. These are not super amazing flowers, but they are beautiful nonetheless. Very airy and light. And the foliage on them with the ripples and kind of the spiky edges is a really nice counterpart to some of the other things in this bed, like the chives and the boxwood. And then on the end here, we do have a hydrangea that was a cutting, along with some woolly speedwell that I just divided into 5 very small parts, just one plant. It will be really fun to see how this all grows on this year. And here's the front sunbed, which has just gone over from the daffodils, and I am starting to see buds of all sorts of other things now. So I think on Friday, when it turns 87, we're gonna have all sorts of flowers again. This here is a deutzia, and it's the Yuki cherry blossom version. So you can see that will be a very light pink and white flower. And this bed is very symmetrical, so we have those also down at the other end of this. And both of the orange rocket barberries are putting out some very cute cream colored blossoms. They're very small, but you can see them if you look closely. And I think they're really pretty. Sometimes it's those small details that you want to see. And in here we also have more salvia and more dianthus. And then the bobo hydrangeas are finally really starting to leaf out and become bushy. So that's really nice to see. Now I continue to ensure that we have this garden sprayed with the liquid fence, because otherwise the deer and rabbit are definitely very busy these days and like to visit the garden. Here is an allium, Carativiense. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I had a couple of these, but this is all that came back. I just think that these are really beautiful, so I might have to purchase some more of them. The foliage on them with that gray-blue color, the waxy blue, is just absolutely gorgeous, and one of my favorite colors in the garden, especially to provide some contrast with the rest of the green. So one of the things that I did with this bed is provide a little bit of color echo. Here you'll see in the front, along with the orange rocket barberries, I have these, gosh, I think they're called lava lamp heucheras, but they just kind of echo that color and bring it forward for a little bit of cohesiveness in the design. And then the other thing that I did is, as you can see, these purple sensation alliums blooming. They're just starting, and I can't wait to show you them when they come out in full bloom. But at the base of this oak leaf hydrangea, I have a couple of, I believe these are the wild berry heucheras, and those also provide a really nice color echo. These were very small divisions that I made at the end of the year last year, so I expect them to become much more full during this growing season. And you'll see one of the edger plants that I use a lot throughout my garden is this golden tiara hosta. Makes a really nice edging plant to the border. But with these purple sensation alliums coming out, we're starting to go from whites and yellows into some of the darker purples and pinks, some more of the colors that are more associated with summer. And lots of new growth on the variegated boxwoods in here, so they're looking a little bit more green until they get a little bit older and age on. here we are at the front entrance, and the boxwood is putting on a lot of new growth here. The hostas are beginning to really fill out everywhere in the garden. We have a nice little azalea that is just finishing up some blooming. And really cool, I've got several different baby Japanese maples that are self-seeded from my larger one here in the garden bed. So that one over the years has gotten really, really beautiful. And I'm looking forward to having some seedlings here to work with. I have some wee hostas in here, along with the plum pudding heuchera. And I'm really liking the way that these shrubs help kind of fill in this gap around the downspout here. I think it's just going to continue to look better and better over the years. So between the boxwood and then this pink sparkler spirea, I think those look really nice. And the blooms of this bleeding heart are gorgeous right now. We'll see some of those in the back as well. Here come some hostas. These are the June variety, as well as some, I think some Halcyon. Lots of different kinds of hellebores and hosta in this bed that are really low maintenance. So if you're looking for something that's low maintenance, this certainly is just that. And this is on the north side of my house, so it gets quite a bit of shade. Look at that maidenhair fern, it's so tall, so delicate. I wonder if people have a favorite hosta. I think it's so hard to choose. I love some of the really giant big blue ones, but then there's some small ones that are lime colored that I love too, so it's always hard to pick. And here we're just echoing the other side. In my design, I have this pink sparkler bush again on this end of the house, along with the sky pencil holly. And this blue shadow fothergilla is just starting to turn a little bit blue, so it hasn't really taken on that hue very much yet, and the blooms are just ending. It has been quite a fantastic bloomer this whole week. This bed is super full. It has all sorts of things in it. And you can see that the low-growth sumac is starting to peek out a bit between those lily of the valleys, and it has these beautiful little light yellow flowers on it. I think those are absolutely gorgeous. So I plan to prune this one with the hopes that I make it grow a little bit more upright before it grows further out, because it's a very wide branching type of a shrub. And here's another one right here. And then another superstar spirea. And my irises are putting on the buds, and I'm sure those are going to bloom as well this week. And some of this burgundy glow, which doesn't look very burgundy right now, but that's what it's called, this burgundy glow ajuga. It looks much more of a mint and cream with lavender blooms, but it's beautiful. And even the larger geranium is beginning to bloom. I've been just pulling off the daffodil tops as they begin to set seed. So I'll show you how easy that is real quick. Just come in, grab them and pull, and that's it. And you're done. So only takes a few seconds, and that just helps to let the plant grow stronger bulbs instead of setting seed. All right, let's go in the backyard. Here in the back garden, the clematis are starting to climb. The hostas are starting to grow in, and the weigelas are setting their buds. So we have another rainbow sensation one back here, and that will bloom a beautiful pink. And I'm going to continue to spread that burgundy glow ajuga throughout this bed because I think the color of the foliage really lightens up the space because this is a part sun bed. So in the late afternoon it really gets a little bit darker, and I think that will help to provide some really good light. And then over here we have another deutzia, and that one's getting ready to bloom as well. And just look at these patriot hostas. Beautiful, right in front of that coral berry. And here we go with a look of the garden right now and how things are looking from this corner. Pretty good. And my goodness, the potager is just overflowing with happiness right now. We have buds galore on the irises over here. And these are some bearded irises. The service berries have finished blooming, but the 9-barks that are in the potager are putting on their buds now. And this Winecraft black smoke bush, which I have trained upwards into more of a standard or small tree, is really beginning to flush some of its leaves out. But just look at the lettuce, right? We have a great crop going on of that. The onions are growing on really well, and my fig tree is finally starting to push out some new growth. I've harvested some asparagus, lots of onions and chives, and my strawberries are blooming over here. Just can't wait to see what we get from those. And of course, this beautiful purple clematis, sparky purple. It's really starting to grow up and vine up the trellis. Lots of beautiful colors right now, even without a ton of flowers. But I tell you what, that ajuga, along with some of the brunnera and the pulmonaria, really help to fill that gap right now. I added some small annual begonias to these pots just to add some color after I put those cardoons in there, and I think it turned out really good. That way there'll be a little bit of color as the cardoons get larger. And then, I don't know if you can see, but I have some of my strawberry, I can't remember, the strawberry gold marigolds. I grew these from seeds. Those are really pretty. And I have a few more that are right here in front of the potager over here. So I'm looking forward to those getting bigger as the weather warms up. Can't believe how cool it got all of a sudden. And here in this bed is where I got a little crazy and decided to plant some of the dahlias already. So here's one. Hopefully it will survive today and be happy when everything gets warmer again. The glow of those privets, golden vickery privets. They're looking really good along with this creeping phlox that we have. And the blueberry bush. Look at those pretty flowers. They might be small, but they're very beautiful. I really like them. So just a very different and delicate shape and form compared to many other flowers that you might see. So here on this side of the shed, we have another amazing show coming from ajuga, and this is just your standard variety of your traditional ajuga, or bugleweed as they call it. And in amongst there, I have some salvia that's going to come up. I have some hostas. We have that 9-bark. We have some hydrangeas, both the arborescens type in the front as well as Some of the panicle in the back. More of the rainbow sensation Weigela. And a little barberry. And then these in front with the really light colored flowers are my pulmonaria. And these come out darker and then they just fade to this really light bluish pink color, kind of a lavender. But I think they're absolutely beautiful. And they really create a stunning effect with all of them together, don't they? Now you can really see those ferns coming up over here, the Japanese ferns, right? As they begin to turn white. And then they're going to get even more of a silvery sheen to them as they continue to grow on. They just kind of morph as they grow. And then under this hawthorn, we enter onto the woodland pathway. We have some pretty iron decorations over here, along with a couple of hanging baskets, which I haven't even touched yet. Some fire pokers for when we have a fire outside. These beautiful heucherellas. You can see I've finally started getting almost all of this mulched, and it really does have a beautiful effect on everything, doesn't it? This year I feel like the Solomon seal has really put on a bit more of a dramatic show. Look at those pretty, pretty blooms. It reminds me a little bit of the blueberry blooms. And then we have some small pulmonarias in this bed as well. And the Brunnera have begun to bloom. They're actually almost finished now, but they're pushing out a lot more foliage, so you get to see that bright silvery color, which definitely shines a bit, even on a dull day like today. And lots of buds on these rhododendrons and blooms too. Look at this one. This one started out as almost a very bright, bright pink. And then it's turned and faded to such a pale pink, almost white color. In front we have the Sum and Substance Hosta, which is absolutely huge. This is its third year, which, if you know the old adage, which is the first year is sleep, and then you creep the second year, and then you leap. Well, we're in the leap year for it, and it is huge. And we have a pretty crimson red Japanese maple with a little pool for the birds. They can swim with the mermaids, get a little drink with them. And then here we have the heuchera and the woodland flax, which are blooming and gorgeous. And the pink fizz heucherella here. They have these cute little pink flowers on them. Isn't that just stunning? Sometimes we have to pinch ourselves a little bit as gardeners because we're so lucky to have these plants and these flowers to look at. The June hostas really do light up the shade and create an amazing contrast next to that marvelous marble heuchera and the maidenhair fern. And as the trillium dies back, it's turning a pink instead of white. These hostas and the oak leaf hydrangeas are looking beautiful. And these pulmonaria, the pretty in pink, are really, really pink right now. So they're pretty much at the end of their bloom stage. Almost all of the buds have flowered at this point. I really do like, now that it's blooming and I have some mulch in here, I do really like this cordial canary ajuga. It's very bright, and I think it's going to look really cool as it continues to connect and become a carpet for this garden bed. More bleeding heart. Back in the back we have some Sun King Aurelia. We have a pink poppet Weigela here that's putting on lots of buds. That's going to be fun to see bloom. And then this lamium over here is blooming already. And I guess I just really am enjoying everything right now. It's so nice to finally have a garden that is beginning to feel lush again and full of life. And just look at the color down this pathway. Really happy with the way this is looking. I may have to move a few things around. You know, in the fall, I did a ton of dividing. You know, some people were calling me the queen of division. And the reason for that is because fall is such a great time to divide. I would just divide it and put it in whatever space that I could find. And then as the next garden year comes on, which is this year, I like to find the places that I actually want those plants to be in. So that's kind of a method to my madness. These euonymus are really glowing next to the autumn frost hostas there, and we have the mahogany monsters that are really filling out as well. And my Myrsus canadensis, a lot of it made it through the winter. This is its third year, and so next year it should potentially bloom. They say it takes about 4 years, and this was a volunteer seedling that I found in my yard and planted where I wanted it. So that's a nice free red bud. Just have to be a little bit more patient when it comes to waiting on the blooms. So the blooms on the apple tree are done. And just look how long the candles are getting on the weeping spruce. It's so many little pine cones on there. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. And the Pieris over here, it's putting out some new growth. So that's exciting. I just planted these last year and I didn't see new growth before, so I wasn't sure exactly what color it would be, but it's beautiful. I love these. They definitely provide a lot of year-round interest in the garden, and I'm glad they're getting bigger. We have a red rover heucherella here. And then the Mount Airy Fothergilla is just at the end of its bloom stage. Lots of things filling in this area as well. And this is really going to be its first full year. Planted this one last fall. But you can see there's lots of color with the foliage, and as things fill in, I think it's going to be really beautiful. Looking forward to that. And so here you can see that golden tiara hosta being used as an edger as well. And I think it just, makes a really nice tidy edge to the border. And then further down, way down there, I don't know if you can see, but that one I use the Patriot hosta for. I like having those edgers. I just think it kind of tidies everything up and puts a nice little edge around the borders to make them feel cohesive. This bed is still awaiting some mulch. It's the last one that I really need to do. Again, here's another freebie Myrsus canadensis that I had from my yard. They do quite freely reseed, so if you do get any of them, just know you may be pulling babies out a lot. And just look at, I have a nice row of chives along the edge of this bed here. And they're gonna look so cool when they open, but they also just look so cool when they have these little buds on them. Here you can see some of those cream blooms and the barberry here as well. Lots of stuff just on the edge of blooming, all the dianthus. Tons of buds all in here. So I think it looks a little bit messy, but some of that's just those bulbs that come up that every year they come back. You just can't pull them all out. Wait do you see this? Duchess of Edinburgh. Oh my goodness, look at all of the buds on here. They're so big. This is going to be beautiful. And I saw a bumblebee all over this holly, and that excites me because I didn't have any berries on it last year. So seeing all of these little blooms on it and seeing a bumblebee pollinating it made me so happy. And ta-da, there's the one bloom on this viburnum. So both of my viburnums this year got just one bloom. Both about the size of a small baseball. And here's a view of the fountain from this side. I love the offsetting between the deep colors of that maple and the plum pudding heuchera as alongside those cypress. And then over here we have lots of color with the heucheras, so many different kinds in here. But this video is already getting very long, so I'm not going to name them off. More hydrangeas, and this clematis is really, really covering the trellis well, again this year. So I just take the small branches of it and I twine it around, because that way it kind of helps to enhance the shape of the trellis, the roundness. We have some allium back here getting ready to bloom. The fire gold spirea. Another Japanese maple. And this hydrangea, which has this huge tall shoot that I just couldn't bring myself to cut off. I was trying to decide whether to make a standard out of it or not. I left it attached to the plant for now. More wee hosta in here, and this cute little bleeding heart. This one is a sun one. It does really well in sun. And then we have some sweet woodruff in this bed that is blooming, and I just kind of let that go all around. And then back behind the spirea we have some columbine that's getting ready to bloom. And then finally over here we have our trellis with the gorgeous clematis along with the spearmint heuchera at the base and the autumn frost hosta. So that, my friends, is the tour for the day, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that your gardens are going well. Tell me what is blooming in your yard and what seems to be doing really well for you. I know we all have things that might not work out so great, but then we also have things that are really thrilling successes for us. Can't wait to hear from you. See you next time. Bye!